He installed a camera for safety, a simple measure for peace of mind in a world that often felt unsettling. But what it recorded was not the mundane shuffle of daily life, nor the petty crime he half expected. What it recorded was terrifying. The digital eye, meant to be a guardian, became a window into a reality he never knew existed, one that lurked just beyond the veil of the ordinary. John lived a quiet life in a quiet house on a quiet street. The silence, once a source of comfort, had recently begun to feel heavy, oppressive. At night, the familiar shadows in his home seemed to stretch and twist into unfamiliar shapes. The house, which had been in his family for generations, no longer felt entirely his own. Slow, deliberate pans across the dimly lit living room reveal a space that is both empty and crowded, a lonely atmosphere where every creak of the floorboards sounds like an intrusion. He would sit in his favorite armchair, the glow of the television casting long, dancing shadows on the walls, and feel a persistent, unnerving sensation of being watched. The feeling was a constant low hum of anxiety that settled deep in his bones, a premonition that something was fundamentally wrong. The nights were the worst. The digital clock on his bedside table would burn the numbers into the darkness, a solitary beacon in the gloom. It was always at 3:07 a.m. that the feeling intensified, as if the house itself held its breath. One night, the sound was unmistakable. Slow, heavy footsteps dragging just outside his bedroom door. He froze, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. The footsteps stopped, and then came the sound that made his blood run cold, a long, agonizing creak as the doorknob slowly turned. But the door remained shut. Fear, sharp and icy, propelled him into action the next day. With trembling hands, he unpacked a small, sleek security camera. He positioned it in the hallway, its single, unblinking lens aimed directly at his bedroom door, determined to capture whatever phantom plagued his nights. He needed proof, even if only to convince himself that he wasn't losing his mind. That night, he watched the live feed on his phone, the grainy black and white image a stark contrast to the colorful world outside his window. The minutes ticked by, each one an eternity. Then precisely at 3:07 a.m. it appeared. A distorted, elongated shadow materialized at the far end of the hallway, a blot of pure darkness against the pale wall. It didn't move like a normal shadow. It didn't stretch or contract with the light. It simply stood there, perfectly still, a silent sentinel in the dead of night. He felt a primal fear grip him as he watched, his breath catching in his throat. He used his phone to slowly zoom in on the anomaly. As the image grew larger, the feed began to corrupt. A low hum of static filled the audio, growing louder and more distorted, as if the camera itself was screaming in protest at what it was witnessing. The static reached a fever pitch, then abruptly cut to silence. On the screen, the bedroom door, which he knew was locked, began to swing open. It moved with an unnatural slowness, inch by agonizing inch, revealing the hallway beyond. But the hallway was empty. The shadow figure was gone, vanished as if it had never been there. The open doorway was a gaping maw, a black void that promised nothing but terror. Just as his mind struggled to process the impossible sight, the screen erupted in a violent glitch, a cacophony of digital noise and distorted colors, accompanied by a loud, piercing shriek that shattered the silence of his room and echoed the scream trapped in his own throat. He threw the phone down, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He had to be sure. With a courage he didn't know he possessed, he retrieved the phone and began scrubbing through the recorded footage. He found the moment the shadow appeared, the moment the door opened. He paused the video, his eyes fixated on the grainy image of himself on the screen, a reflection in the darkened glass of a picture frame on the wall. And then he saw it. Looming directly behind his reflection, its form just barely distinguishable in the digital noise, was the shadow figure. A blinding flash of the figure, now directly behind him in the room, seared itself onto his vision before the screen went black. Was he ever truly alone in that house? Had he ever been? Perhaps some doors, once opened, can never be closed again.